Welcome back to From the Belly. I have two unique guests tonight. They don't fit the profile of my last 24 guests, um, meaning that they're not in clergy, they're not doing clergy work. They don't have seminary degrees that I know of. It doesn't mean they don't have interest in spiritual matters, but that's not the nature of what we're going to be talking about tonight. What we're going to be talking about tonight are these two artists, why they do music, the kind of music they do, when they started, what the evolution has been, and then we're going to talk about that beautiful project that we pulled off. And guys, by the way, I had to go back and look when we did that. It's like 6 months ago that we first ended up in the studio, which is pretty nutty. And then we came back in about 6 weeks later. So I am with Sienna Meadow and Gabriel Wheeler. They both live in the Portland area. And I've known these two for a long, long time. I've known one longest or longer than the other, but I've known Sienna Meadow for a long time. And so I've watched these two develop. And yeah, sometimes it's hard to separate out, hey, I really like and love these two. They're part of my story. They're part of my history. They also do music. And then you hit that fine line of, okay, yeah, I'm a father to one, I'm a friend to the other. Do I have to like their music? Well, there's pressure in that space, but I can tell you, set that out. I know I love their music because I'm the one to kick this last project off and went on GoFundMe and raised some money. And I would not have done that. And it was in support of my book in a way, but actually I got more excited about it because it was in support of these two people. These two knew each other before we got in the studio back, like I said, 6 months ago in Portland. But I see them differently. I'm looking at them now. And if I'd done a podcast with them before we ever did this duo project we're going to talk about in a minute, titled Bloom, you might have seen it on my Facebook page. Some of you donated, and we want to say thank you. The three of us want to say thank you so much for the donations you made because it got us in the studio. But I see them differently, at least on camera, because I watched them in the studio do some really beautiful transactions back and forth. Independent of one another and together, I will say there's a few times I teared up because it was just moving. It was just really cool to be in that space. I'm going to start with Sienna, and I'm going to ask her to introduce herself in regards to the kind of music she makes now and how, if she were to go out there and try to get some live gigs, which she's done live music, Gabriel's done live music. But if you were to try to get something now, how would you present yourself? And then walk us through when you started your music career. I'm sure you picked up your guitar and did other things, but when you actually started recording music, tell us how many records you've made. And then we're going to talk about tonight specifically two songs that highlight how I took these two back in the studio. But Sienna, tell us about the evolution of Sienna Meadow.
So, yeah, my name is Sienna Meadow. I am a singer-songwriter. I'm in Vancouver, Washington now, but I really kind of cut my teeth. Is that what that phrase is?
Yeah,
I feel like I learned how to become a singer-songwriter in Portland because I moved there in 2018 and I started attending this open mic at the Laurel Thirst Public House. And they do a really fun open mic there every week where they give you a prompt. And if you write into the prompt, you get to play two songs. Typically, if you go to this open mic, you can sign up and play one. But if you participate in the prompt, you get to play two. And really highly attended, very busy, lots of excitement there every single Sunday. And so I got really into doing that prompt every single week. And I had already been covering a lot of songs. I had, picked my guitar back up around that time, and I was covering a lot of songs, and then attending that open mic was what helped me open myself up to writing my own songs. And so that continued on. I started doing more open mics all over Portland, and then eventually was booking small gigs, so I was playing pretty consistently. And sometimes you're playing for a bar of people that are just kind of chilling, they're not really paying attention, but it was still such good practice, and it really helped me become a better player and a better writer and live performer, because there's just so much that can go awry when you're playing live music, even if it's just you. Um, and so, yeah, I'm very influenced by Lizzie McAlpine. She's definitely um, top 5 favorite artists, but also probably the artist that I've drawn the most inspiration from. And I've studied her work the most closely as like ways to develop my own singing voice and my own writing and how she structures her songs as well. Um, Also was really influenced by Kevin Garrett while like kind of first when I started writing songs. This band called the Staves and Phoebe Bridgers as well. So kind of like ethereal indie folk is my vibe. But I do also like to incorporate like some humor in my songs that you might not hear at first, but just some little like cheeky sort of funny lyrics here and there. And yeah. So then the second part of the question was like the evolution. Is that right?
Yeah, what you've arrived to
Mm-hmm.
today. I mean, you definitely described the type of music you do. What would you say is what's one thing that maybe was a challenge for you before in the type of music you do, be it live or even in the studio? But you've grown, the confidence has come, and it's kind of like, wow, it's that part of you has arrived.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, when I first started playing and trying to see myself as a songwriter, I was so self-conscious about my guitar playing. I just thought it sounded so bad, and I had people around me telling me it doesn't really matter because you write good songs. You don't really need to be that good at the guitar. But in my mind, I was like, yes, I do. Like I want to do it all. I don't want to just like fumble around. Like it just does not feel good to me. Um, and I feel like I've come a long way in both like forgiving myself for making mistakes and maybe not being the most proficient guitar player ever, but I also have gotten better. And I feel like those go hand in hand because I don't think I really started to make more consistent improvements until I was more willing to make mistakes and like just accept where I'm at and accept that I'm not like an aficionado. I play pretty like basic stuff, but it works for me and what I'm trying to convey. And I'm always going to keep striving for more. I would like to continue to improve, but I've loosened my grip on that. And I feel like it has allowed me to get better. Um, and also now I'll like revisit my older songs and I'm like, wow, I can play this so much easier than I used to be able to. And so I trust that I'll feel that way one day about the newer songs I have right now that are hard for me to play because I've gotten a little ambitious with the chords that I've chosen.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Um,
You have a new batch of songs. I'm assuming you have a new batch of songs. I know artists always do. You have a new
mhm.
batch that you might take into the studio. You're working on them at home. Is that kind of what that means to have a batch and trying to figure out what you're going to do with them?
Yeah, yeah. So, about like when I first started writing songs, I was able to release a project. Yeah, I guess this was pretty early on because I released this in October of 2019. So about a year into like me seeing myself as a singer-songwriter, I released an EP of 7 original songs that a friend helped me record. Um, and then after that, I was still writing, but I didn't release another solo project. And then in like 2022, I ended up releasing a pop project that was a collaboration with a friend of mine. And then after that, I was just working on a lot of collaborations, like I was on other people's projects. So my
Hmm.
queue of songs has continued to grow. I have like about over 30 songs at this point that I want to release. Um,
Hmm.
so I'm working on it. I'm trying to get there.
Well, and I know enough about this whole thing of the releasing the music. I mean, and you both of you can respond to this. Uh, it's a beautiful thing with all the tools you have available and all the different streams of the way you can release music. But then again, it's fair to say it's been so diluted because there's so much in so many ways and whatever. I mean, there used to be, I'm going to sound like the old guy now, but there used to be just some ways that you got your music out, and it's kind of like you do it like this, and it's a tradition, step by step and whatever, and you get a break and you make a record and whatever. But now, my God, I mean, how many salmon are in the stream, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's literally overwhelming. I'm sure you've been thinking about the same question, Gabriel. Talk about your beginning, like maybe if you can remember the first record you did, and kind of you can't remember that because do you remember how many records you've actually done?
On my own, probably like, I mean, a lot of these were when I was like 16, and calling them records is, you know, generous, but maybe 17 or 18.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
I've released 4 or 5 with other people
Okay.
over the years.
In regards to how you represent yourself now, where you were back then, and what the evolution has been like for you, and maybe specifically about being a guitar player. And I mean, you drummed some in the studio. I mean, of course, both of you sing. So just talk about development and kind of what that process has been like for you.
I've gone through a lot of iterations of the type of music I'm recording, releasing, writing. I mean, like 3 or 4 of the albums I've put out with other people you'd consider to be like experimental noise, even like harsh noise stuff. And then so I've released acoustic records. Again, calling some of them records might be a little much, but I don't know. Even right now, I'm not really sure. I've got an album that's done. It's been done for a little bit. I'm working with your eldest son right now to figure out the best way to release that and brand that, because he's got a much better mind for marketing than I do. And then in terms of what's after that, I'm somewhere between wanting to full on like make a metal record and wanting to make a really stripped back, like inspired by Nick Drake kind of album. Those are the kind of 2 directions I'm being pulled in at the moment. And I think I'll just do both. Caleb's got all these ideas. That's your eldest son, Caleb. He's like a marketing whiz. He's very smart with that stuff, so he's helping me out. And he's got a lot of ideas of like taking all the music I've made, because there's so much music now that's a little like, if someone heard the new record I put out and then they're like, oh, like what else has he done? And then they find 15 albums that none of them sound like they're by the same person. It might be overwhelming. So he thinks I ought to like take all that off the internet. And then I was kind of thinking anyway, I'm getting too lost in the weeds because I'm, it's a big question I don't have a good answer for.
It's a big question.
I've wanted to take a lot of that stuff, because with all that music, there's 75% of it I look back on and I'm like, I cringe a little bit, just because I was 17, or it was an idea that I followed that I shouldn't have or something. So I've already had the idea of kind of scrapping all that, taking the stuff I still think works, and like re-recording almost like a greatest hits kind of thing of all the stuff I've made. So that fits in with Caleb's idea of kind of starting fresh with this new album.
So when you say re-recording, that's actually doing the songs now. Doing songs. Okay.
Like for instance, Westport to Whitby.
That's what we did. We're going to talk about. That's right.
That would kind of be pulled out of that obscurity and brought into the new light.
Okay. Which you did in the studio, and both of you did with those. For the folks that know about my book and all that, they'll know all about that, because I call it my Jonah playlist. And you all were in my Jonah playlist. I called you guys up to take those back in the studio. And I know you made comments about both those songs, because those were very early on for both of you. I learned from Sienna. Am I right on this, Sienna? That was the first song you ever wrote.
It was the
correct?
first song I ever
Am I right
wrote
on that?
that I liked.
She
Yeah,
froze.
you're right. I
It's
mean,
crazy.
Wow.
unless you count the love songs that I wrote in second grade.
No, we won't.
But yeah, for the
Yeah.
most part, yeah.
I mean, those matter because if you hadn't written those, you probably wouldn't have written anything else. But for our purposes,
Exactly.
Lost was your first song. So back to Gabriel for a moment. He and I would talk music a lot, but Nick Drake is riding down the highway and heavy metal's riding down the highway. Do they crisscross and intersect at any point, or are those two genres, two records, if you will, that you want to make that really don't influence each other? I guess all music influences each other, but
I think either way, it's like it's going to be my songwriting either way, I guess. I think even like no matter the genre I'm making, like Nick Drake is an influence on my writing. I mean, it's even something I've tried to escape a little bit over the years, but I think I'm a little more accepting of it now. But like, you showed me Vigilantes of Love so much growing up, and no matter what I do, half the music I write, or more than that, all of the music I write ends up sounding a little bit like there's some Bill Maloney in there, or even like, when I was hitting puberty, I was listening to Motion City Soundtrack and My Chemical Romance and like Yellow Card and stuff, and some of that stuff I still love, like Motion City Soundtrack and My Chemical Romance. I still love that stuff, but for years I was like, but I don't want my music to sound like 2008 era pop punk. But then every time I wrote a song, I'd be like, oh shit, that was Motion City Soundtrack or something. And I've kind of embraced all that now, so I tried to anyway. So, whether I'm making a metal song, and nothing I make is really metal, but a more hardcore song, a more experimental song, or just like a straightforward acoustic whatever, it's all gonna have that same soup of influence that I don't think anyone can escape from unless they're being disingenuous.
Yeah, and I think people that do in the arts, whatever they're doing artistically, if they're all tied up on the inside about not wanting to sound like somebody, but they do, and they're kind of apologetic and they don't talk about it, and they talk as if they've never been influenced by anybody. I mean, to me, it's very off-putting. I just love when people just go, look, man, these are the bands I listen to. I mean, back in the day, God, everybody wanted to sound like the Beatles. Everybody wanted to sound like Elvis Presley. Everybody wanted to sound like Chuck Berry. You talked to Mick and you talked to Keith Richards of the Stones. I mean, they wanted to be R&B. They wanted to be, and the Beatles had all their own stuff. I'm going way back, but it's true for every musician. Okay, so let me do a little promo so you all can see. I think you can see, or do I need to adjust my computer?
Mm-hmm.
That's the front cover of Reimagining Jonah. So I had an idea. The book was put out in November of 2023. It's not a coffee table book. I had a young person recently tell me it could be a while before that book ever sells well because it's a niche book. And I was like, it actually is, isn't it? He said it'd be a hard one to promote too. That'd be a hard book to promote, which it's been. So I relaxed about it, and I never wrote it to make money. I didn't. I'd like to see the book used more, which means read more and used more. Like you all want, you make music, and if you're honest with yourself, you want it to be listened to. I mean, you want somebody to listen to it and then go, man, I got to turn my friends onto this. I mean, you want to be listened to.
Yeah.
All right. I don't even think so much about reading the book, but it's like I want the book to be used in small group kind of encounters, transformational type of environments. Anyways, when I wrote the book, I'm always listening to music, and I have a list. I've never compiled them, but I bet you I have a list over 100 songs that I was going to attempt to get the lyrics. I reduced 15 chapters to 9 chapters, and I was going to get the lyrics to 9 songs, which I did. I had to pay the rights for some of them. I paid everybody, even you all I paid, but I introduced every chapter with a song. Many books and authors will introduce with a saying of Sigmund Freud or somebody, or a piece of a poem. I selected the lyrics of 9 songs, and 2 of your songs landed on that. And those landed not because I know you, but they landed because they fit so perfectly into that chapter. Now, my honorable mention list is long. It's a long, long list. But I'm so happy with it. Right when I was getting ready to sign off to have this published, there was one song in chapter 4. I always knew Gabriel's song, Westport to Whidbey, would be in chapter 8. I just knew it. I knew it. The chapter is about, Jonah's going through, as any person can go through, a very, very down time. He was disintegrating. He was really falling apart. And Westport to Whidbey, it fit. The lyrics fit. The feeling fit. I would often tear up when I listened to it because I was connecting up with this character that I was writing about. So I encourage people in the introduction of the book, please listen to this song before you read this chapter. I don't know how many people have done that, but I think it really influences even the reading of the chapter. So Gabriel's song was boom. It was in there. Now, I will tell this, and then I'll shift over to Sienna. I had a challenge with Gabriel because initially he was like, that's a long time ago that I did that song. I don't know if I'm even feeling that song. And I'm like, then I got to make you feel it, because not only do I want the song in the book, which he signed off on, but I want people to listen to it, and I want it to represent you. And I think I had in the back of my mind one day, I want to do something with that song, but I also want to help you out in your music career, which I've also wanted to do with Sienna. That's a story about Westport to Whidbey. But we're going to talk more about it from your angle. But then I want to shift to Sienna. So I had a song, Sienna. I think I told you this. I had a song with a very well-known artist, and I was on the phone with her, and she approved the song. But, as I got closer, I didn't feel right about it. Nothing about her, nothing about the song. Just something, it didn't feel right. So at the last minute, I scratched it. And I'm like, I don't have a song. But I know chapter 4, it's a time of gestation for him, the mythical story of Jonah's in the belly. It's got to be a woman. It has to be a woman. It's got a maternal feel to it. It just has to be. It's got a feminine touch to it. It's got to be a woman. Sienna. Oh man, I got to listen to her music. I go to your first, I don't know if it's your first album. It's the one with you and your pooch on the porch.
Yeah.
Okay. So I go, I'm so jazzed because how many tracks are on that record?
7.
I said, man, I'm going to go through every one, and I know I'm going to make something fit. Now listen. I don't remember Lost. It seems like it's maybe 3rd or 4th song.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the middle.
Thank you. It's somewhere in the middle. Boom. I'd heard it before. I listened to it. I started bawling. I literally started bawling. I'm like, that's the song. And I think Sienna, she'll sign off on it. Then I found out when we were in the recording studio with Peter Rodacher at Yellow Room. We want to shout out to Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Yellow Room Recording in Portland, Oregon. We were with him. There's a whole story of how I met him, which I don't want to go into, but it was a really serendipitous meeting. I then reach out to him and I say, I got these 2 artists I want to bring in your studio. I'm going to get the money. Let's do it. Quote me a figure. He quoted me something that was doable. We got in there on some Saturday in July, and we took those 2 songs that they already had them recorded, and they're beautiful in their original origin. But then I said, you guys can do whatever you want with these songs. I don't know what to tell somebody to do with a song. Just do whatever you want to do. If you want to do the same thing, just have Peter put his touch on it. I want to hear from you all what that was like to take that young song, which was an old song at that point.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like to take that song and then what you did with the song? What was the process like? Westport to Whidbey, how would you represent of what it went through in the studio? Maybe that's the best way to put it. And then for Lost, how did it like become its own in that space? And I'm telling you, folks, these two songs, they've got that professional touch because Peter knows what he's doing. He was so respectful of both Gabriel and Sienna to let them. It was a wonderful relationship. You know, he didn't say it's got to sound like this. He never would have done that. And I don't think they would have. They probably would have left, but they didn't. They stayed and they made it. But what was that like, guys? And at that point, I'm going to stop and let you all talk. And whoever wants to go first, Westport to Whidbey, Lost. What are those two songs mean to you now, and what was it like to take them back in the studio?
Well, it really was so serendipitous because, when I first started writing songs, I would just record them on my phone, just a little voice memo with just me playing the guitar and singing it as if I was performing it live. That's how I kept track of all my songs. And then over the past few years, I've had a very specific goal of wanting to learn how to actually make my own demos at home for my own songs, to give them like a blueprint so that I could go into a studio and actually have, something to work off of to add more instrumentation and dimension to the song. And so when you reached out about Bloom and this idea of taking, this song that I had already written and that was pretty old and had already been released, and giving it a new life in the studio, it was just wild because I was like, that's exactly where I am right now. I'm trying to just learn how to make demos and experiment with all different kinds of elements. And so, in preparation, I made a new demo for Lost, and I just went all out. I put so many different things on there. I was putting all these crazy effects on my acoustic guitar, and I was trying drum loops and all this stuff, and I made a demo for it, and I had a lot of fun with it. It was really satisfying. But as I continued to sit with it, I was like, it's not quite right for the song. Like, I think I needed to go a little bit overboard. And so then I went back and I made another demo that just felt more true to the energy of the song. And so that was the one that I ended up bringing into the studio with Peter. And he's a great producer because, he listened to my demo and he really understood what were all the elements that we needed to accomplish. But there was even some of the things like from the original demo that we actually ended up using in the final recording. And he was able to just kind of direct the flow, which was so helpful for me because I felt like I was just able to enjoy the process. I didn't really have to make the decisions of like what we're doing next, which I really loved. And I had even started doing something I'd never done before, which was playing, like adding piano to my songs, like writing little piano parts. And I was doing that at home by just like setting up my little USB mic on top of a synthesizer keyboard and the microphone would be like falling over. But it was just like, I just need to get this little piano lick that I wrote captured. It doesn't need to be, pristine. And so he gave me the chance to play a real piano in the studio, but it was quickly like, I just don't have those chops and that's okay. So he helped recreate those piano parts using a MIDI in his studio, which that was the whole process was so satisfying to me because it was like every single little detail that I had as an idea, like nothing got missed. Like it was like every single little tiny moment that I was picturing, we were able to translate into the song. I know I mentioned earlier, Lizzie McAlpine is one of my biggest inspirations, and something I love about her production choices is just like she highlights the tiniest moments And when you're listening to her songs, it's like it would be like the most subtle thing, but it impacts the whole song so much and it just makes it feel so intimate. And so that's really what I was going for with Lost. And I felt like we got to achieve that. And yeah, I never thought that song would have a resurgence. And it was just like very gratifying to be able to come back to it and give it a second, a second iteration.
And I like the way you and Gabriel collaborated on things, just chatting with one another as you were, swapping out, and Gabe was going in to do something and you were coming out of the recording booth, we'll call it. And I captured some really cool video. I'd sent it to my family. I'd sent it to your family. And it was just such a cool setting. But I really like the way the two of you, and you both did something on each other's song.
Yeah, and I'll just touch on that really quick. Like,
Please do.
Yeah, Gabriel did drums and guitar on my song, which was, I want to say, I would say pretty much my first time having another musician play parts on my song. And that was so cool and so gratifying to just have my music out of my own head and out of my own body and as like a more shared experience. And I was really grateful for Gabriel's contributions as well, because I'm not a drummer. I'm not an electric guitar player. I can't necessarily write parts for that. And so to have someone, be willing to write things to go on my song was really special. And I also just was so happy with the build that it created, because I really wanted it to have this very zoomed in, intimate feel in the beginning, and then have a big swell. In the second half of the song, which we were able to achieve because of those added instrumentations. And
that's great.
So that was kind of, total dream come true for me. I was like, this is crazy. I never thought I'd get to do this.
Well, that's cool the way you talked about that, the intimacy of the song, and then this big swell.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. In the original song, see if I get this right. Tell me, I don't have the right music terminology. But the original song was all that intimate space for the most part, and there wasn't a swell. Which has its own. I mean, it's beautiful the way it's sat, but it got I don't know. And the best use of the term, it got its red carpet moment.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah,
it got its red carpet moment.
Mm-hmm.
As if it was kind of behind the curtain before, a little shy to come out, and then just kind of come out and walk on this red carpet, and it did. That song is that was such a moment when I chose that it chose me. I mean, it really did choose me for chapter 4. So it's so perfect. So Gabriel, let's shift over to Westport to Whidbey. So what was that like to take it back in the studio, to have fresh ears from Peter and Sienna?
Well, first off, I was honored to have been able to add and play on your song. It was a fun one to write the bass line to, in particular. It kind of fought me for a few days. So.
Oh yeah, see, he did the bass too. I forgot to give him credit for the multi-instrumentalist.
It was all covered, but just the guitar and the drums came pretty simple. But because it's such a as you say, such kind of a gentle song. It doesn't always immediately jump of what kind of bass line to add to that kind of song. So it was a fine line to walk of something interesting without trying to be rip a bass solo over the song or something.
Quash the song.
Right. But yeah, I was really happy with how it came out. And that was a part of it where Peter was super helpful of because the bass line was still kind of ruminating in my head even as we went into the studio, and he's super smart with he knows more than I do about, for sure, music theory and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
A little bit, but he was super good of what if you did a half step down on that note and it might kind of have an interesting dissonance or something, and he was always pretty much right. So I was happy to have him put his 2 cents in. So anyway, yeah, Westport to Whidbey. That song, that song, and in fact the whole album that it's on, has proven super difficult to re-record, particularly that song. I mean, I wrote that song 11 years ago. I recorded it like 9 years ago. And when I recorded that album, it was at a point where I'd finally gotten to a level of like confidence of how to record instruments and how to like use Logic, which is it's a digital audio, it's the workstation I use. I finally reached a point where I felt pretty confident, but at the same time I still had no idea what I was actually doing. Everything I knew was either just me tinkering or like me watching YouTube tutorials. So when, everything I did at the time made total sense to me, and now I listen to that album and I have no idea how I recorded some of the things. That song in particular, like the first like 3 minutes of that song, when it's building to like the louder part at the end, the louder part at the end is like, I know exactly what's going on there. And that part of the new version sounds, it sounds different just because different setting and different studio, whatever, but it's pretty much the same. But those first 3 minutes of that song, I have no idea how to do that again. And I've lost all those files for that whole album. They're somewhere on an external hard drive. They might be in a landfill somewhere. They might be out in the garage. I don't know.
They actually might be in my garage.
They might be.
There's other creatures living in my garage.
They're either in a garage somewhere or they're at the bottom of the ocean. I don't know. But so that's been tough. So it's this tough thing of, I really like the version that we did with Peter and in the studio, but there is, and I hope this doesn't like bum you out for me to say this, but I think you'd agree, there's a little bit of magic in that first recording that is just so like, it's so honest to what I was feeling when I wrote it and when I recorded it, and there's just something about it that's so like a young artist who doesn't know what the hell they're doing, just like making it work. And I think the way that I kind of rewrote it is like technically better and has more of like a real song feel to it. And I'm not trying to in any way disparage, like I love what we made and I think it sounds really cool and I'm very proud of it. But there, like when I listen to that original, and it's been this like sticking point in my head for a few years, that whole album, there's some kind of magic there that I don't know how to harness again.
I'm sure you're harnessing other forms of magic in the music in music you're doing. Well, I know you are, because there's a few of us. We get a select hearing of this new record you have, and the family seems to say it's the best you've done. But I know what you're talking about, and I think that that's true for many artists and many songs. I think what we can say for both of your songs, both iterations of Lost and Westport to Whidbey, is the original recording and the new recording, they're different. They're the same song, they're the same artist, but the artist has grown and changed. There's magic in both. We live in a world where we're always rating things. I hate, by the way, I'll just get some stuff out that I hate. It's a long damn list. It seems like the older I get, that seems to be longer than the things I love, which is not trending in a good direction. I hate the question, well, who do you think not only who's your favorite rock band? I hate that question. Classic rock band. Well, who's the best in the world? Who's the best guitarist? I'm like, why are you making these? First of all, why are you making these comparisons? I mean, these people are in their own lane. I mean, these are different lanes. They're different. It's all different style, even if it's from the same genre. My whole point in that is magic lives where it lives. And both your songs live in a context when you were younger and you were singing from a different place. I think both of you were, I hope I get this right, but if I don't, correct me, and I'll be happy to be corrected because we'll get it right. Both of you were singing from some kind of real pain. There was real pain in both of your songs. I mean, the titles speak to that. There's an ache. in both your voices. That's what I mean, apart from the lyrics and the instrumentation, which moved me, but that ache is what I needed for chapter 4 and for chapter 8. I needed that ache. That those songs would not have fit in other chapters. So it's just a beautiful thing that you evolve, you change, and you look back and you just go, I did what I did then. I took it back in the studio. One of the things that I wanted us to do, the studio experience, is just to boost your confidence, and also have something that you can say, this is actually something that's really fresh that I did in the studio. And of course, I want to do more. So would you all tell the audience how they can find those two songs, if they can? I don't know. We haven't, maybe that's not the good question, Doug, because we're talking about how to market those. So maybe we don't go there. Maybe we go with, how do people find your music right now? That's a good question.
Well, first of all, I want to do a little tangent. This is maybe a rabbit trail not worth following, but you had a little side about the list of things you hate growing. But I think if you, and this might be a little bit of armchair psychology, but I think the idea of you hating people bringing up that list or the ranking thing comes from how much you love the differences in these musicians and the music itself. Maybe that's a little pretentious or something, but I don't know. When you said that, I thought, but it's not coming from hate. It's coming from a place of love and respect and admiration. And you're hating people trying to put into boxes that thing you love so much.
Thank you. I think it becomes something personal for me, but it also just feels like some violation of something even about the artist. I feel some need to advocate for, wait a second, I mean, why would you do this over that? And anyways, I really appreciate that insight. I think
I don't know. I just had that thought when you said it. So, but then in terms of how to find, I think I'm going to say at the moment, stay tuned. Again, I'm trying to figure out, because I've been going by Gabriel J. Wheeler for a long time. I went by Gabriel Cedarstrom. That's all going to change. The way you can find me is going to change soon. My plan is to, by the time we do our, are we talking about the Bloom thing? Is that okay to talk about?
Oh, it's fine to talk about. We're probably not talking about how to market those two songs because we're trying to figure out how we're going to market those two songs. But talk about Bloom and talk about,
My goal is to have this new album out and have a new, even talking about marketing just makes my stomach hurt, but have a new brand, I guess, a new brand identity, if you want to call it that, for myself and for my music and for this new album prior to us doing this show for Bloom.
That's great.
So that
I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the show. Beautiful. I'm going to talk about the show in a minute and watch me promote that. I'm telling you what. We're going to at least get one carload of people or a busload of people. I don't know if they'll all be coming together, but they're going to be coming south from where a lot of your folks exist, and that is the Seattle area, because that's where both of you got your start. But you got your friends where you live too in the Portland area. Sienna, how can people find Sienna Meadow's music?
So you can find me on streaming platforms. My artist name is Sienna Meadow. So SIENNA MEADOW for those who are just listening and not watching. But that's my actual name. That's my real first and middle name. So thank you to my parents for giving me a cool name that I can just use as an artist moniker.
Beautiful.
But I have music out on Spotify, Apple Music. There's basically when I release my music, I just checked yes to all of the streaming platforms.
Does Bandcamp still exist?
Bandcamp still exists. I don't have my music on there. That's another thing for me as well. That's kind of like a stay tuned thing, is that I'm considering removing some of my music from just Spotify specifically. Their morals and values as a company just don't really align with me as a person, and so I would like to distribute my music on other platforms like Bandcamp that tend to have a really strong, emphasis on actually paying artists well and giving artists a really appropriate percentage of, the sales.
Good.
And SoundCloud, you can find me on SoundCloud under the same name, and there's a bunch of unreleased music on there. So if you
Cool.
decide that you want to go down a rabbit hole of my unreleased music, you can find it there. You can also find me on YouTube, and I have some of my original songs on there, like me performing them live at various shows, and I also have done some videos of covering other people's songs. And I used to make vlogs as well, and I would use my own music kind of as like background. So that's some fun projects you can check out.
That's cool. That's great. Thank you for that. And so, yeah, I'm going to end with this, and that is we are the three of us with some other folks here in McMinnville, Oregon. That's where I currently live. And that's an hour or so drive from where these two live in the Portland area. I'm bringing these two artists to McMinnville, and our goal is to have them do a live show at Linfield University, which has a student population of 1,800 students. I don't know how many live on campus, but a lot of them do. And so I think it's very fertile ground, and the connections I've already made, there's been some excitement around that. And then we might even do something else here in McMinnville that I haven't even told these two about, and I'll just leave that to kind of sweeten the pie, sweeten the tea. So that's going to be, we'll keep everybody posted about that. We're going to stay with the moniker of Bloom, and we're going to do this in spring, and no better time for something to bloom. So these two are going to be performing those two songs. It's probably going to be, I'm pretty sure it's going to be an unplugged, the old MTV unplugged. I think it's going to be an acoustic night. We're going to have some accompanying artists. We're going to have somebody on the piano. And I got a few other ideas as well that I'll tell these two about later. Well, this has been fabulous. It's just been so good. I learned something each time, and I think I know the two of you pretty well. And I'm just going to say to the listening audience, listen to these two. I mean, truly, truly, truly listen to these two. In my PhD work, one of the things that I learned, we learned it was the European model of education, and we learned to read authors, not books. I remember when a professor said that. You won't be reading books here, per se. You'll be reading authors. So if you get to know a book that you like, you're going to get to know that author because you want to see how they've developed. That's truly the European way that they study, is to gather around a text, a few people with their professor, at least in the old days, and they would read a book, and then they would read the author, and they would look at the development of the way the author developed. I think it's beautiful. It drives me nuts when somebody says, "Hey, did you hear that song? Did you hear?" I'll say, "But who played it?" "I don't know." Well, or they give me a name, and I'm like, "Where are they from?" "I don't know." How long they've been around? "I don't know." And I'm just like, "Wait a second. You got to get to know that musician." So don't just listen to these two artists. Actually read them. Read them. Go back, even with the songs that they talked about tonight. That's found a new life in a new context. So I know no other way than to sign off to say, not only do I like the two of you, I love you both, and I'm really excited about bringing you to McMinnville. I really, really am. And to get you introduced to a new crowd of folks. And I believe, and I feel this in my gut, I believe there'll come a day when you're going to see something shift in your musical career. Something's going to shift. I mean, I don't know where it's going to take you or whatever, but it's going to be not only a good shift, it's going to be a really necessary and needed shift, because I know the two of you. It's swimming upstream, man. It's tough. Thanks for your time tonight, and we'll just keep at this. And you folks that live in the Northwest, would you be willing, and are you able to drive down to McMinnville? And we'll keep you posted. And these are going to be, one of them at least is going to be a free show. The other one might have a really, really small ticket price to it, but it'll be small because that's really not our goal. Our expenses will be minimal. But it really, really is about your experience playing live. and it's also about exposure. So we're done for tonight. So thank you so much for being here. I look forward to polishing this up and sending it out. I'll send it to you all. It'll be in YouTube format, and just do with it whatever you want to do with it.
Thank you so much. This was so enjoyable. I love getting to talk about the behind the scenes process and unpack the studio time, and it was fun to reflect on because, yeah, like you said, that was already 6 months ago. So
crazy.
Thanks for creating this space for us to talk and be a part of this project.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll keep creating space for both of you.